All right, so here's how my wire tuck got done. I ended up splicing the wires out of this rubber so that way I can keep the grommet there. I routed it out through first, I'll show you, but came out through here. This is a giant piece of wire loom. It probably doesn't need to be that big. I just kind of did it as a little safety concern. I could probably shrink it down. I didn't 100% cinch everything down, but you can see here's the one loom covering everything. I chose a little bit of the different than that standard loom that you see, and then I individually did each wire in it, and they came down like so with heat shrink, and this side is done. That's what this side, the driver's side, looks like. The other stuff that was included is inside. It's going to be basically the same for the passenger side for the most part. I don't have everything plugged in. I did a little test earlier just to make sure everything does work. I am missing a bulb for the blinker, or the actual attached bracket. This is for the bumper. So over to the passenger side, what you're going to have to do first is route everything from the inside out. So as you can see, I routed the entire harness out. Here she is. So the next thing you're gonna have to do is basically take a blade of sorts and just strip as far back as you can. We're gonna have to separate all these wires. Do not cut any wires yet. I mean, you could if you think you know all the wire codes, and if that is the wire codes, if you do, good for you. All right, it's hard to tell, but they've all kind of been spread apart. Just spread open as much as I can. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut, we'll start with the headlight, we'll say. I'm gonna cut it about here, put the actual headlight connector portion off to the side, take the part that I still have remaining from the car. I will strip it a little bit, solder those two wires together, and I'm going to cut a slit in here, route the wire through here, come out of here, and I will route it individually up to where it kind of roughly needs to go. I will do that with all of them. If you notice the ground here, there's some wires that are going to be connecting to other stuff from it. Some people like to just kind of attach this here. You can attach it in many places. I'm trying to route my stuff through this plug again and come out here. I'm not going to depin all that, so I'm going to end up throwing the ground block back into the car, and I'm going to ground it inside the chassis, just to kind of keep this as, I don't know, as clean as possible in my opinion. I'm not knocking anybody else's methods. I've done it the other way too. This is just how I'm going to do this setup. We're going to grab one of the headlight ones. I'm just going to choose it here. There's the cut this to the side. You probably just push these through. A little bit more pain in the ass, starts to get a little twist these together to just drop these out. You can get access when you pull. You get access to shove it in there. Feed it. You can see I cut a nice slit right. You can see it poking through. So now it's coming from out to here. The other pieces, then I'm gonna totally just got a bunch of it on the floor here. Or no, 20 gauge wire. Sorry. Soldering iron, lighter, some heat shrink. This is 1.25" heat shrink. Doing that yet? This is the 1" together in it. Not gonna get to that yet. I can double check this, but pretty good for 2 wires. But 2 is definitely a good size fit. Bought just a kit of just heat wraps that I will use. I bought black. Guys, it just depends on how OCD you are. Mess with this. So red. Strip a portion of it. I will twist it together. Twist this red together. Or an arm, whatever, kind of turns, but there's no need to put heat wrap. The other end is still open. Come through in the camera or not, but definitely soldered to leave that one like that. Restripped. Fucked up now from me twisting it. Back to normal. Wire that I got. This piece is extended. I'm just going to cut some of that off. Oh, it doesn't like to cut. Oh. Do the same thing as we did to the red. drape this. All right, so I thought the camera was recording, but it was not. So I already did one. Ignore that for the moment. So whatever, the other headlight here we're doing. So I cut it, like I said, and I routed those two wires through there. One's attached to the ground now, so the ground I had to pull up a little bit, and I've got two wires. Great, so I'm gonna let those dangle for the moment. I am going to strip these two. So just strip some off the end here. What I need to do now is get a rough length that it's gonna be. There's gonna be many ways you can do this. This is just the way that I've been doing it. So I took the other headlight, like I said earlier, and I cut it. Now what I did is I soldered a red wire to the red and a black to the black. I know there's gonna be some wires in here that are gonna be blue, green, whatever the case is. I stick black always to black and red to whatever the other color is. And I wanna leave some original wire in case I ever have to troubleshoot something. I'm gonna see it on this end, and I'll be able to see it on that end. When I came through, the ground was a little longer than the red. I kind of just try to cut them pretty close. I might just trim that again, just to get them close, whatever. Same thing I do with these. Now what I'm gonna do is, everyone can do this a little bit differently. This is just how I'm doing my car. You can let it roll, you can drill holes, you can do whatever you want. I'm going through that hole right there. So, I'm going to take the bulb, stick it into the headlight, grab all this excess black and red wire that I just soldered, and I'm going to route it through the hole. Yes, I get it. To remove this would be a pain in the ass. I'd have to cut the wire. I don't really plan on ever removing it. I got to troubleshoot it. Some shit went sour, and that's just something I have to deal with. All right. Pull the wire through. Sorry, not the easiest with one hand. All right, so it's through. Now, I'm gonna want a little bit of slack personally. The camera can pick it up. Go a little on the low end here, kind of like that one. Just give myself a little bit. And this is the side I'm gonna end up seeing, or anybody's gonna see when they come in the engine bay. So I'm gonna end up wanting it to look like that a little bit. So I'm gonna leave a little bit of slack here in it. I'm gonna come back to this side. Going to grab it, and I know it's going to route up the fender well, right? So I'm going to just kind of hold it in place. Hold it in place there, assuming that's the way it's going to route. Grab the other two that are coming from the body itself, kind of hold them out. That's where it is. Gonna need a little bit of extra length. Gets a little bit easier with one hand, or two hands, I mean. All right, need a little more length. Let's just say right there, which looks a little long to you, yes, but I'm gonna end up, this is gonna go a little higher up, and this is gonna get kind of tucked in like that. I'd rather be a little bit slightly baggy, if that makes any sense, than being super tight. So, I'm gonna cut it right there where my hand is. Let me just double check that there's still some slack. There is. And, well, pretty self-explanatory. Cut. If these piece of shit cutters would cut right now. Ugh. You know, having a good tool for every job makes your life that much easier. Boom, cut. So now I'm gonna take it back out of the headlight, pull the wire through. So now's the step where I can actually, I'm gonna heat shrink these. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the loom, which I'll do for you right now real quick. I'm gonna take the loom, and this is what's kind of the hard part, I guess you can say. It's not hard, but it's kind of an annoying part, besides taking the bulb out right now. The idea is for obviously the loom to cover this entire harness and cover this. So I'm going to try to get as close as I can, but I will say on a couple of the driver's side, it was easier just to kind of cover this, leave X amount showing so I can solder it, and then on this one do the same and have the loom get up as close as I could, and then just have heat shrink cover like this, and there's probably about this much of a gap between them, not necessarily loomed, but then the heat shrink for the loom was able to cover both. if that makes any sense. It just kind of worked out for me easier than just making one big piece, because then I have to bunch it all the way up on this and hope for the best to be able to unbunch it all. It's not the easiest to bunch up, but yeah. So let's come right back to that now. Alright, so that's what I did to the driver's side. I just tried to make one giant loom, which ended up working out. It's a little on the baggy side that I would prefer not to do, but it was more of a pain in the ass to do. So I'm happy the camera didn't record that. So for this, I'm just going to butt it up to the edge, which I'm not going to solder it, or I'm not going to seal it all the way up to the edge, but I'm just going to do that. Come down with the wire here. So I'm going to go a little longer than it. We'll come out to about here. I can bunch that little bit up. That I can survive with. It won't be annoying. So now I've soldered these a couple times, or you can just try to wrap them together. I'll try to wrap them together and we'll see how this works out. You're gonna have to do this. Expose some of the wire. It's easier to feed them together, which is why I was saying if you solder them, they'll definitely be solid. If not, just wrap them together. Make sure they're kind of taut. Grab the loom, kind of open it up on the side, and feed it in. You get to a point where maybe it's kind of a pain in the ass. That's fine. Kind of find where the wire got to. Mine got to about here. I'm going to hold the edge, take the loom, bunch it up, pinch it with the other hand, and just kind of keep pulling the loom. You're basically scrunching it up and pulling the wire through. Oh, there they are. All right. So let's pull this over it. Kind of got. All right. So again, I want to have some wire showing just in case whatever. So we're going to have about that much showing. You notice we're covering the wire, but notice it's not very much past the wires, if at all any. So I'll probably have to do what I said earlier. So grab a piece of heat shrink again. This is one for the loom now. Slide it on from this end. Pull it to about there. I can slide the heat wrap over it here. Pull it back. That looks pretty nice. We'll send it right there. Boom. Let it dry. That looks like a fucking... looks like a beautiful wire. Got a little bit sticking out there. So now, basically gonna push this back. Sometimes it doesn't like to stay. Maybe put some tape, wrap it around it, hold it. I'm gonna do the exact same thing with the loom on this side. All right, so I bunched it up. Notice I put a piece of heat shrink on first to cover back there. I didn't heat it up yet. I put another one up here to go over towards the front. Solder them together. Yes, I routed it through there first before we soldered it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to go back through that hole. Added the two heat wraps here, heat shrink here, so I can attach those in a second. And I added another piece of heat wrap up here that's going to come towards the front too. How well did we do? Good question. We shall find out together. Let's cover these first. Got a little crazy right there with that. See if it'll just break that top off. Yes, it did. Oh, we got it hooked. Still kind of hot. There we go. All right. Moment of truth, and really, it's not even going to be the end of the world. I can still make it look good. So I'm going to pull a little bit from that end, which that would kind of cover. Make sure you kind of stretch it back out, because once you bunch it, it kind of gets crazy. Like this one over here is super gotten crazy. Let's see how much. It's gonna be easier with. Close now. So to be honest, that's probably close enough, because I got this heat wrap here that's going to come across. And notice this now is sucked pretty much up inside of there, which is good. Kind of what I was going for. Bring this one forward. I guess that wire was not exactly the same length as the ground. Through just a little bit, just to even that back out. There we go. And meet in the middle like that. You can get it inside, get like one of the ones inside the other one, just for a better tight fit. If you can see that, I was able to get them both so they could both heat shrink inside of each other. Heat that up and seal it. Boom. Same thing, we need to kind of get this expanded out. This is where I said it's kind of a little bit of a pain in the ass. Yep, get a little bit more out there. It doesn't have to be fully in that. I'm going to end up putting a giant, like I said, a 1-inch loom around this, and I'll put a little bit of some tape around that. But there she is up inside of it. We'll heat it where it sits. And push this up a little bit. See what else we can catch on fire here. There you go. So I did 2 of them. I didn't record the first one. This was one that's just solid. This is one that's I met in the middle. Yes, that is there, but you won't ever even see that either, because the 1-inch loom will be covering it. We know the wire is protected with this loom all the way across it and the heat shrink. There, I'm not going to heat shrink it yet, but that's going to be good enough. And then when you follow it to where they meet, you can see one's going to come over. I'm going to heat that one up, and this one's going to overlap it, essentially. And I feel that's a pretty good, solid fit there now. Turn my fan again. Now we'll go to my opposing end here. It's a little up in there, but alright, so once you've got everything all wired up where it needs to go, now it's time to put the 1-inch loom over it all. Cut a piece that pretty much goes from like, anywhere from here at the door to there. If you notice now, all that's there, they're just going to be coming out of there. So the 1-inch loom, you can slide the headlight plugs, which are the biggest ones over here, through this. So just slide everything through there, and yeah. All right, so I routed it through there, put the headlight, both headlights, and the radiator fan plug down there. It's a little frayed out again. Yes, I can either cut that towards the end, or the heat shrink, I'm just going to cover it. Route it through here, so now I need to slide the 3 other plugs, which are my 2 corner lights and my bumper light. You can try to do them all together, do them one at a time. It's really your preference. I will start with the longest one. Same thing I just did for the headlights, which so this is the length that I chose, so mine's gonna kind of come, I'm probably gonna route mine back a little bit to about there. Heat shrink can kind of cover all that, and this will end about right there. If you can see that. So now, this is 1 1/4 heat shrink. I'm just gonna estimate I need some to cover that fraying and the material, so let's go. Oh, look at that. Not exactly the most square cut in the world. Just trim that up a little bit. Still a little crooked, but let's say about here. Now you're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna feed it in through this hole. Just put it over this, fold it in half along the 1-inch, and just kind of feed it down. All right, 1 piece of slid over. See where it's gonna sit. Put some tape on it. Just keep the fraying down a little bit for when the heat shrink comes over it. So like I said, take the heat shrink. You could again done this earlier. This is just the way that I ended up doing it. You wouldn't be having to slide all this through now. I just did it this way because it made it easier for me in the long run as far as having to deal with more shit on top of the wires while I was trying to solder and attach things. And everything fits through this heat shrink just fine, so you got it all through. So once it's through, just kind of take the heat shrink, fold it in half, and slide it through the hole. There you go. It'll come out around it. You're basically going to have to do the same thing you did for the loom. Slide each one of the wires through it. Boom. Now I'm just put it in place and heat up the heat wrap. All right, and there's the finished product. Probably end up changing that out for 1 big zip tie. I would probably grind this down, which is what I'm going to end up doing in the future. Just put some electrical tape there right now, just in case when this has some movement, as I just didn't want it to be super tight, but that way this eventually maybe potentially doesn't rip a hole through this. It takes some time, but still the point. And there you go. Your 2 corner lights, bumper light. Some stuff might be a tad bit too long. I mocked the bumper up there. I didn't show you guys just to kind of get a rough idea. If anything's a little too long, I'll end up just kind of making it get in there pretty still. The old headlights. Same thing with the radiator. I put a radiator that I'm probably not going to run, but an old one. That'll kind of get itself down there. And yeah, there you go. So the inside now of the car. All right, so inside the car, in case you didn't know where everything was being routed through, it's all through this hole up here. Yeah, you can't see, there's a ton of wires coming out of it now. But here's the horn wire now. Whoops. You can either cut this, do whatever you want with it, hang it out in here, wrap it up, throw it up in there, whatever. So I didn't drill any holes. There's the ground block. There's a hole already there attached. I don't know what it goes to, maybe something for my AC and shit, I don't remember anymore. And the relay attached up there. I probably just now tidy these wires, zip tie them up there, just kind of get them out of the way. And that is it. Granted, those may move just because I will have to route the wire harness for the engine from here, then out through the bay, and the ECU will sit here. But other than that, that's it for the wire tuck. I'll give you guys one more last look. Here's the passenger side, coming up through into there. And the driver is essentially the same thing. I just zip tied them. To the actual cable, the hood latch. All right. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, yep, throw them up and I'll try to answer them. And I don't know if it's gonna be part 2, 3, or whatever the case is of this build, but the wiring for that is now done.